It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome into Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Today's guest is somebody that's going to talk about something that's very near and dear to every veteran and their family out there. So I want you to get your pen because you're going to need to take down some numbers. And we're going to talk with Judge Brenda Stedham, Circuit Court Judge. I want to make sure I got a Circuit Judge of Calhoun and Cleburne County. I want to say Circuit Court for somebody, but Circuit Judge of Calhoun and Cleburne County, Brenda Stedham. Be right back. Get your pen. Welcome back into Veterans Issues. Today's guest is a friend. She's a judge, but well-known judge here in the county, and for you folks out there in the outlying areas, and especially you folks over in Switzerland, Shania. Brenda Stedham is the circuit judge for Calhoun and Cleburne County, but we're doing something, I said we, there's 30 counties, I believe it is at this moment, in the state of Alabama that have the Veterans Treatment Courts. And we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to learn some more stuff about it. I know some of the things, but I want to welcome to the show Brenda Stedham.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you today,
Thank
Ken.
you, Judge. Appreciate it. We've tried this 2 or 3 times now. It's been about 3 or 4 months before you get here.
Third time's a charm.
Thank God, but we're getting here before Christmas and we get that done. Now, Brenda, this is something that you don't mind if I call you Brenda, do you?
No, go ahead.
I'm older than you, so I get But when I heard about this first, and I've had people on the show from the St. Clair County, Pell City. Several
Right.
people have been up here, and they just and Otto Fox. I don't know if you know Otto or not.
No,
but anyhow, they Judge C.
Right.
They were really bragging on this, and they talked about the win-win. They talked about the monetary savings and the family value, how it helped with the family.
Right.
Let's talk about what is Veterans Court. How's that work?
Veterans Court is a specialty court that takes veterans who have criminal charges pending against them. If they are entitled to or eligible for veterans benefits and they fit our protocol, then we will take them into my court. They'll plead guilty at the front end, but I will require them to get the treatment that they need. They'll either have to get in school and stay in school, or they'll have to get a job and keep a job. The program lasts about 12 months. It can take a little longer if you hit some little speed bumps. But then at the end of the program, if you successfully complete the program, the guilty plea will be set aside and there'll be no conviction on the record, which is really important for veterans because many of them want to go into law enforcement jobs or Homeland Security, and they can't do that if they have a conviction.
Well, you were talking about they got to meet a certain prototype. You know,
Right.
Can you briefly what would be?
The vast majority of the ones that we have screened have been drug charges, substantial drug charges, manufacturing meth and that sort of thing. We can take some crimes that we think of as violent, but there's some that we won't take. There was a man that has serious mental health issues, and in one day he brutally beat 3 different people. Well, we can't take him. We can't do anything with him. So we take it on a case-by-case basis. And the main thing I'm looking for is an underlying problem that's causing this criminal behavior. So many of our warriors, and I mean that generically, come back and they have the warrior mentality and they don't think they can seek help. For one thing, they're taught that they have to keep going. I mean, when you're in a battle, you can't stop and think, oh, well, I don't feel so good.
We need to go to KFC and get us something.
Right. So they come back and they still have that mentality. But when they come into the court, I can make them do what they need to do. And when they get that treatment, then they can become whole again. So many of the injuries are invisible wounds that we can't see. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, I see that, and let me get this up front. This is a choice for you to do,
right?
To take this on, because I know from behind the scenes there was other judges that were you know, could have done this.
Right.
But you chose to do it, and for that I admire you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
But people out there that are watching, why veterans, you know, it's like, and you just touched on it, because they go and they write that check and they sign up, and then they have a invisible wound.
Right.
If they had double amputees, you'd feel sorry for them.
Right.
But if they got a wound inside that makes them, Brenda, they taught us in basic training, it's your killer. You're a paid killer.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what they taught
right.
us to do. And I said on here many times, I talked to Sonny Miller, the employment person for the state. For veterans, I'd say, you know, when you're coming out of the service, or what's your qualification? Oh, I'm a killer.
Right.
You know, I was
right.
paid to kill. I just came from Afghanistan. I'm a good shot from up in the mountains. There are not many of those available out there, but so they don't wind down.
Right.
And society does not know how to accept that person.
That's exactly right.
And I applaud Governor Bentley for the things that he's setting up with the clergy across. We've had those people on here, and we're going to get. I would say the state of Alabama is going to get about 20,000 veterans back from Afghanistan here shortly.
Yeah.
From the wind down in Afghanistan, and they're going to. If we go with the averages, there's going to be 20% of them with PTSD.
That's right.
5% are suicidal.
Right.
And you well know that somebody's suicidal, they're also homicidal.
That's exactly right. And the problem is even worse than that. Now, we've got Vietnam vets with the same kinds of problems that were not recognized and still need to be dealt with. We have veterans from other wars that still need those issues attended to. But the ones I'm seeing primarily are the younger ones who've gone to Iraq and Afghanistan, sometimes multiple tours. They get undiagnosed concussions from IED explosions. They watch their friends being blown apart. They feel guilty because they're still here. They feel guilty because they couldn't save their buddy. And they have major problems. And every time you deploy, it makes the severity of it worse.
Yeah, you got to cut and you just keep putting saw.
Right.
I was talking to John Holder before the show, one of your mentors, Lieutenant Holder. And out at Jacksonville, I had a guy on here who had TBI.
Right.
And he was from Afghanistan. He's a young Marine. I won't mention his name. His name is Matt Bine. Matt, don't mind me saying, because Matt but he had a short-term memory. We sat down and ate lunch. 20 minutes later, we were down doing a TV show. He did not remember the conversation we just had. Right. And it was true. And I could see that in a family. You come back and you can't remember, and the wife says, "You're doing it on purpose. You're just not remembering on purpose." And the people in church, boy, he's acting strange. Right. And there's something wrong with Jimmy that he come back, you know. And that thing you said about the wounds are not being visible, that's what we're going to be. People have got to understand that, and I'm glad that you got a court that will do that. Now, what is that funded? We got a minute, but is it funded by the state? Do they have any funds coming in for them?
We have a grant to begin with. We have no assurances that we'll get it again, but we have funds to get them started. But the Veterans Administration is fully behind these courts. General Martin Dempsey spoke to us at the conference last week, and he's so excited to learn about the Veterans Courts, and he wants to help us maintain and grow.
All right, let's take up there when we come back. We got to go to a break. And I want you to write this phone number down, 256-453-0866. That phone number, 256-453-0866. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking about Veterans Courts with Judge Brenda Stedham. And Judge Stedham, you was talking about this conference you just come back from, and it was a short, where's the conference held?
It was in Washington, D.C.
And it was put on by?
Justice for Vets. It is a group that comes under the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, but it is a separate entity, and the program we had was just for veteran treatment courts, for judges and battle buddy coordinators and other staff members of the courts, and it was very informative. We were really fortunate to have a great program.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I don't do on this show is play gotcha questions, but I'm gonna throw one at you that ain't even prepared. But Why'd you choose to do this? You didn't have to.
I didn't have to. Chief Justice Malone's office called me and asked me to do it, and I was a little surprised because I'm a dedicated family court judge, but I asked for some time to think about it, and I began to think about all the cases I had over 30 years of law practice where I've seen these problems. And then I thought about the cases I've handled as a judge where I've seen these problems. And I thought, you know, when these folks come back and they don't get the help they need, it's like a bomb going off in the family. Not just the spouses and the children, but the aunts and uncles and mamas and daddies. And I thought, why not? Why not? You know, I was raised to be a servant, and so I thought this is going to be a good way for me to serve, and maybe I can do something for somebody.
Well, I've met a few of the people that's involved in this. You and I have a mutual friend, Sandy Speakman, and I remember when Sandy first got involved in it, there's some folks that they just wore her out. She was trying to open a cemetery for the veterans down in South Alabama. There was a lot of problems with mental rights and getting the deeds to the property, and she was on I-65 every day, seemed like, away from her kids, away from her family, and you know her husband's a judge too, so she was involved in all of that. And then this Veterans Court came up, and they wanted to pull at her. They wanted her to, because she's the representative, the legal representative for the State Department of Veterans Affairs for Alabama, and so naturally she should be involved in it. Well, I didn't sense the passion because she was so wrapped up with, but within just a short period of time, the next thing you know, she's reporting at the state board meetings of all the 10 counties, 15 counties, 16, now we're at 30-something counties. I got those statistics, but I won't go into all that. But the thing is, it's just something drives people to do this. And I just want to say this, when a veteran comes home, for World War II, it doesn't matter. They don't have a wind down room like if you're coming up from the depth, you know, to what they call that when you come up too deep in the water, you got to go over here and get balanced out. Yeah. They don't have one of those when you come back from war, from Afghanistan or whatever, and the deceleration lane to get off the interstate. You're just right back in. You're family court. Right. You got kids in the house, and the wife says, Johnny's acting up. Got to go for a parent-teacher conference. And he's saying, woman, a few minutes ago I was dodging bullets in Afghanistan. Right. And there's some way to reconcile that somehow. And so things happen, and they anger, and everything just blows up, and they do things. And you hit on it a while ago, you got a federal government out here that will treat these people. Why not treat them for their problem and let them come back and be a productive parent, husband, instead of being incarcerated? Is that where we are?
Exactly. Many of them will end up in prison if we don't do something. But really, the way the Veterans Courts started is telling to me. A judge in Buffalo, New York, who had a military background, had an adult mental health court and an adult drug court. And one day he had a big strapping Marine come in with some criminal issue, and I don't remember what it was. But the Marine was hanging his head, and he wouldn't look up, and his shoulders were slumped. And the judge just happened to have a good friend who was sitting in the courtroom with him who also had a military background, and he asked his friend to just walk out with this young Marine. And when the Marine came back, he stood up, had his shoulders up, parade rest, and he was ready to face whatever it was. He felt like he could do what he needed to do because he had a battle buddy. And so with the veterans benefits and the battle buddies, a mentor for each participant, the success rate goes way up. The adult mental health courts and the adult drug courts, as far as I know, don't have mentors. But we're fortunate that veterans are more than willing to serve as mentors. And so it really helps the success rate.
I was just thinking, sitting here listening to you, Mickey Shadry's here for the station. His wife is a teacher. She's very passionate about her teaching, and most teachers are. I could only imagine what it would be like for someone to teach a student and then see them succeed over the years and come back and say, Miss Shaddix, because of what you taught me, I've done this. For 5 or 6 years down the road, somebody comes up to you and says, Judge Stedham, what you did to me, my wife and I got a great family. We got a new home. Is that somewhere, would that be your payoff?
That would be awesome. But you know, I learned a long time ago that God doesn't plan for us to always know what effect we've had. All He has assured me is that if I do the right thing, good things will come to those people. And so I don't plan on someone saying that.
No.
But if they did, it would be awesome.
Yeah, I've had people that I've helped get a disability that was down here.
Right.
A lady came to me and said, my brother's suicidal. He lives in squalor. His son has left him. He won't have nobody. Will you help him? And long story short, we did. He got 100% disability. I saw him not too long ago, got his teeth fixed over at the dental place. He's living a great life, got a good home. His son lives with him. They had no payment anywhere better than he came running into a parking lot one time. I had no idea who he was. And I didn't know if he was going to whip me, kick me, or whatever, but he just had his arms out. And I go, uh-oh. And he hugged my neck. And that was for everything. All the calls early in the morning. I've sat on suicide watch for 5 hours with the guys. And all that goes away with one of those right there. So you'll get that someday with this. Where do you get your mentors? Where they come from?
Greg Potts is coordinating that,
Potts,
and Elmer Wheatley is working with him as well. And they just have lots of friends who are veterans of all different ages and different wars, and so they're touching those folks and asking them to serve. The Colonel Keith at the Army National Guard has been working with us to try to help us find some. Colonel Truid from AOD is working with us to help us find veterans. But veterans are really a band of brothers in a way that I will
we
never.
got the number up there. We want them to get that too. Right. She's showing that now. I'm doing my vinyl white stuff there.
Good. Please call Greg Potts if you're interested. He can give you more information about the program and how it works, so you don't have to make a commitment. But if you'll talk to him, you may choose to make a commitment.
We got less than a minute, but what does a mentor, what would they do? It's not an hourly thing. It's just you would put them in contact with a person and they'd shadow that person, have somebody to call.
Well, it's sort of like the things that you've done, Ken. You made contacts with veterans who have been in bad situations, and they've called you, and they knew that there was somebody there. So often they have burned every bridge with every family member, every friend, and they think there's no one there. So they just have somebody they can call and know that somebody cares about them.
That's I appreciate you coming here, because that is something that they need to know, that they can get somebody on the other end of the line that will listen to them, but also understands, and that's very important. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
We got to go to a break. Come back. I got news that you can use. Stay right there. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Thanks to Judge Stedham for coming and doing the show today, and I hope that you folks out there, not just for the veterans, but the family of a veteran, if you know someone's in peril, there is something out there. There's hope. Hope's on the way, and that's a great program that Judge Stedham's involved in, and I honestly, sincerely appreciate the fact she's done it, because I will tell you the truth. I had a question there as to whether we was going to get one of those veterans courts in Calhoun County in a expedited time. So she's stepped up to the plate, and for that, she should be honored. I want to remind you again, if Kizzy can pull up the law enforcement tag up there for us in the control room. I always throw her a curve, but this is very important, because we're getting down to the wire to build this memorial park up here. This tag that you're looking at, that shield and the rose is universal for the United States. If someone sees that, they know that that's a memorial, like the one in Washington, D.C. for the law enforcement that's fallen. That's from the Law Enforcement Memorial, and we're going to build one here for the state of Alabama up in Centennial Park. And funds from that sale of that tag, some portion of the funds will go to building these memorials here. So I want to encourage you that when you go get your tag, think about this. You're driving along the road and you just happen to go a mile or so above the speed limit. I hope the judge is not still listening. But you're doing about a mile above the speed limit, and the police comes up behind you. They see that tag and they say, uh-oh, automatically they know that unlike those little stickers that you pay $20 for, this speaks volumes of who you are. You support law enforcement and the law enforcement memorial, and they might, just saying they might let you slide. But on the other part of it, just having that and showing that you really support law enforcement is worth a lot. The Veterans Moments we do here on the show that run continuously, I just want to say that Randy Wood, Steve Hurst, Barbara Boyd, and Cale Brown, thank you for doing those. Because a lot of people there's a lot of bills that are passed in Montgomery that helps veterans. They're veterans bills that give privileges to veterans, give benefits to veterans. They're not even aware of it because there is no mechanism to present what bills were passed down there. It's like the trees falling in the forest and no one hears it. So on this show, Veterans Moments is what we do every week. We do a different bill that was passed. There's 16 of them passed in the last session, and it's important that if you got something on the table, you know it's there, go get it. So that's what Veterans Moments is all about, and thanks to our local delegation for that. These people stepped up to make it possible for you to see that. And let's see, I talked about when I had Santa on here last week about paying it forward. I did that again this morning on the way out to the show. And it seems like it's becoming addicted because pay it forward is simply this. You're on a fast food line. Tell the person on the speaker, ask them how much the one is behind you. If it's not too much and you can afford it, just say, put that on my tab. Pay it forward. They know exactly what you're talking about. Most of the places, all your fast food places know about paying it forward. Now what you're going to do is you're going to make somebody's day behind you. And if you can do it, you can also do the car in front of you. So if you do that, you've made their day. And I've seen them hitting the steering wheel because they're in a hurry and the people not waiting on, and to see them just break down after something like that. So yeah, you'll get enjoyment out of it. I'm running out of time. I got a thing on here to remind you about the Veterans Court with Judge Stedham. I'm not even going to talk about that. We already spent the whole show then. Let me just make sure that I got the shout outs this week. And this week's goes to this time of the year. It's the most special time of the year for anybody serving this country, especially those that are serving overseas. And for all of you that's serving away from home, the holidays, this salute's for you. We'll see you next week here on Veterans Issues.